My name's Sabine. I'm the director of Epilepsy the Film, and I'm here today to interview Natalie Beavers, who is an epilepsy survivor, advocate, and mentor within the epilepsy community. She is the founder of Angels of Epilepsy, which is a nonprofit charity and advocacy organization, and the creator of the Seizure Diary, which sold nationwide. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So I wanted to see essentially learn about your story, your personal journey with epilepsy, and how that motivated you to then create Angels of Epilepsy.
Okay, I was diagnosed with epilepsy at the age of 5, and that was about 43 years ago. And I had a very high temperature. It was uncontrollable. My parents decided to go ahead and take me to the hospital, but I began to seize multiple times. And immediately, the doctors in the emergency room did a MRI scan as well as like an EEG. And again, this is in 1982. And they went ahead and said, your daughter may have epilepsy. According to my parents, they were like, what is that? We don't know too much about it. They handed a brochure and said, hey, you need to set an appointment with a neurologist. So that's exactly what my father did. And from there, they did more of an intense MRI, and they saw a scar on the left temporal lobe. It was the size of a dime. And they stated that with your daughter having multiple seizures, and we see this lesion on her left temporal lobe, we're going to go ahead and diagnose her with epilepsy. So they prescribed me with medications. Again, back in the 1980s, there weren't many resources and information out there. So my father, he was a firefighter at the time, and he went to the library just to do his own research. He even stated to me there wasn't too much, there, but what he did find, he actually shared it with others, like the school nurse at the elementary school that I attended at the time, my family, and just other people, friends in the neighborhood, about epilepsy and seizures and what to do when it comes to that in regards to seizure first aid. Um, I greatly appreciate, the friends that I had at that time. It's somewhat different compared today when you hear stories from um, teens or children having seizures in school. But my friends, they literally cared for me. If I were to have a seizure on the playground or in the classroom, they were there to console me. They would cry for me while I was in the clinic area. And they understood. They wanted to care for me. But it's somewhat different now. But I greatly appreciate them. But going ahead, middle school, definitely I still had seizure activity. But entering my high school years, I didn't have any seizures. And that was quite, different, but I appreciate it. And as the years went on during my high school years, the neurologist that I was seeing at the time had told my family, hey, she has grown out of her seizures, so we're going to take her off of the medication. So I was very happy. But my freshman year in college, the seizures returned. So that was quite, awkward. Going back and seeing a neurologist, being an adult, I still had my father to be with me so he could hear as well, like what's going on with me and my epilepsy. And they just stated, hey, we're going to put her on seizure medication. We definitely want to make sure that she can control her seizures. And it pretty much did. It wasn't 100%, I wasn't 100% seizure free, but I lived life. I went to work. I became a mother of, 2 sons, and, I just continued to live a life, have fun with friends and so forth. Um, but, in 2006, I had a seizure while driving, and it became a tragedy car accident. And that changed my life. Seeing a neurologist, even at that time, the neurologist stated to me that the scar tissue, the size of a dime that I had as a young, child, it has spread it across my temporal lobe, the left temporal lobe. And he stated that he saw something on the back of my brain, but he wasn't sure. So that's when they had to get more specialists to come in, and they saw it was a cyst on the back of my brain. During that time, they were giving me options about brain surgery. I decided to have brain surgery. I said, I do not like seizures. If it can just decrease, I would be thankful for that. So in 2007, I did spend a lot of time dealing with video monitoring and testing before the brain surgeries. And later in 2007, I had the first brain surgery, the craniotomy. That was where they placed the electrodes on the surface of my brain to get the exact location of where the seizures were coming from. And then the second brain surgery was when they actually went in and they removed the damaged tissue from my left temporal lobe. Dealing with the cyst on the back of my brain, the doctors couldn't go near that part of the brain. If they were to go close to that portion of in that area, I could be paralyzed. So that's why I still have a cyst, on the back of my brain. But moving along, spending a lot of time in the hospital, I met so many other epilepsy survivors, parents, caregivers, and then my parents met with, other parents. And it was just like a heartwarming event, because it was like we were family. We had similar difficulties in life and things that we were going through. And I talked to my dad and I said, I believe I need to start some type of support group or an organization, uh, just to help people who are just like me. Look at what the conversations that we've heard. I said, we need some type of big support group or organization that is based on epilepsy and the parents and caregivers. And when my dad looked at me and stated, don't be a sayer, be a doer. And that's when I came up with the idea to say, I'm going to start a nonprofit organization. Didn't have any idea of how to do it, but I did take a 5-week course in the county where I live. And Angels of Epilepsy launched right before my final brain surgery in 2008. So that was great. That's how Angels of Epilepsy came about.
Wow. That is very inspiring to hear. And I can hear from what you're saying when you were talking about in the hospital meeting these other epilepsy survivors, like that sense of community. And I feel like that's what I see a lot when I, since I've been following Angels of Epilepsy and seeing that sense of community that's being built through that. And I actually another thing too, with the surgeries. So I don't believe I've met anyone else with epilepsy that has done that as well. And that's something that I don't even believe that I was ever even spoken to about with me. So is that something that you've seen become more common now over the years, or is it potentially a case by case?
I would say it's a case by case. I wouldn't say common. I have spoken with a lot of epilepsy survivors because they've heard my story
Mm.
about me having brain surgery. And they ask a lot of questions, to say, hey, how did you pull through? What did they do? And I let them know that everyone is different, and also our brains may be similar, but it may not be the same.
Mhm.
So it depends on the strength and confidence that you had. I believe the confidence that I had, and just, wanting to at least have a decrease in my seizure activity. I just had just that confidence and momentum in myself to say, hey, this is what I want to do. And also to the doctors there at Emory University, they gave detailed information. Every question that myself or my mom or dad asked, they
Mm.
gave us, the response that we needed, for that. So I greatly appreciate that. But I definitely advise epilepsy survivors to do your own research, number one, and hear from other people who may have had, brain surgeries or craniotomies, or, some people have the surgery where they have the implants, the VNS or the RNS. There are other people out there, in different states, so you definitely have to do your research and try to connect with individuals and just to hear their story. And just go from there. And you just never know. It could give you the confidence, or it could give you that moment where you say, maybe I should wait, or maybe I don't need to do this. So I always tell them, speak with other people to hear their story.
Yeah, exactly. And what you said about do your own research, I think that's a really powerful statement to make as well, because it does really make a difference in speaking to other people who have gone through similar things or have done it, that, to get more, I don't want to say accurate information, but just to get different opinions, different,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
Yes.
And with that being said, what are the primary, mission and goals of Angels of Epilepsy when you started it? Like, what did you go in wanting to make clear, to other people?
The, the mission that we have, and especially when we began Angels of Epilepsy in 2008, the main thing that I wanted to address is just simply being there and in support of those in the epilepsy community, because the stories that I heard, many of them stated, I feel like I don't have the support. Where are my friends? Where are some of my family members? I just feel alone. So the first idea I came up with was we have to make sure that we are a supportive organization. If they call our office, if they email us, let's actually have a conversation with them to let them know that they're not alone. Number two, I wanted a different nonprofit organization, different from the others. Many nonprofit organizations, especially in the epilepsy community, is more so based on, monthly webinars or, health fairs, and, they do their, charitable walks each year. But I said, no, there are people out there who actually need attention. They need the help. And it's not just the survivors, it's also parents and caregivers too. They need to be involved as well. They're dealing with the same thing as well. And I said, first things first, I said, with Angels of Epilepsy being an invisible illness, you know, we need to provide medical ID necklaces and bracelets. So when they're out in public, if they're in school, if they're, out dealing with public transit, they could be in a grocery store, shopping, anything. They need to have, medical ID accessories. So I came up with our organization providing medical ID necklaces and bracelets, so in the front it states your name. On the back it has what you deal with, epilepsy and seizures. It has the emergency contact information. And also too, many people with epilepsy can't drive. I've dealt with that, dealing with this, accident that I had. And the first thing I stated, I said, I don't want anyone to go through what I dealt with, having that car accident, with having a seizure while driving. So our organization provide transportation for them. If they're out of state, we supply Uber or gift vouchers, so they can make it to their doctor's appointments, or if they need to go to the pharmacy to pick up medication or so forth. We help parents as well, in those needs. And also too, the main thing that's on our list, and right now, is helping survivors and parents and caregivers with their medical prescriptions. Medical prescriptions are at a high amount with pricing. Our organization, we don't have a lot of funding, but we help in any way possibly. We provide other pharmaceutical resources that can possibly help, that we refer them to, but we also provide gift cards, that range in different pricings, just to help them in any way possible. Even when COVID came about years ago, there were many people that couldn't work anymore, parents and caregivers. They were off of their jobs. They're like, we don't have funds to even feed our family. So we provided the Angels of Epilepsy COVID relief packages that had necessities for their home, food and necessities for their home, because they need it. And it's just so much more that we have. We also have the, public support group meetings, webinars, but we also have it virtual too, because Angels of Epilepsy has expanded across the US and in other countries. So we also provide that as well. So our organization is somewhat different compared to others, but our main mission is to supply for their needs. That's pretty much our main mission.
I almost got emotional. You were saying how you also help with providing, like car rides for patients with epilepsy if they need to go get prescriptions and just being so hands-on because I mean, I can say from where I am, there really is not an organization like this that's so about helping patients not feel alone and feel supported because it can be a very isolating thing having epilepsy sometimes. And just knowing that you're also supporting the families as well, because the impact that that has on your family and friends is, I don't want to say it's overlooked, but it's really, it's a lot on them, right? So yeah.
Absolutely. Is it? And a lot of people have to understand, yes, we're the ones who are, battling, this severe brain condition, but it also affects the family members. I have two boys. They're not young anymore, but imagine two young children having to learn about epilepsy and seizures at a very early age, and then growing up years and years being a caregiver
Yeah.
for their mother. Their life was different compared to other children. I'm thankful that they did, were involved in other school activities like football and things like that, but they still had some difference when it came to that as well. So in having epilepsy, it affects a lot of people that are around you, especially those that love and care for you the most.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. And looking ahead, how do you envision the future of angels with epilepsy?
I am hoping that, well, number one, we are still, even though we're lasting over 15 years now, we are still considered a small nonprofit organization, independent. I started this on my own, but I'm very thankful for the assistance with my family and, close friends and just volunteers. But we definitely, it's still a growing process, to be honest with you, because having a nonprofit in general, in order to last, you have to have funding.
Yep.
Period. It doesn't matter what type of organization it is. If you are a nonprofit organization, you have to receive funding so you can continue the mission, that your company has stated to do for the community. I've actually gone into my personal account, and I don't have a lot of money, but I've gone into my personal account just to put into Angels of Epilepsy's account because funding is quite hard. People go out to seek for grants, they hope and get sponsorship, donations and all of those things. But sometimes it could happen and sometimes it could not. So you have that situation where it's like, okay, what are we going to do now? But one thing I can say, it didn't stop me. I will continue, even though Angels of Epilepsy, we have people on a waiting list because we may not have the funds available at the time, but that waiting list, they are guaranteed to get supplies, whatever they need from us, on that waiting list. But we just hope that in the near future, we want Angels of Epilepsy to have a huge office. I told my son, he's my youngest son, he's the vice president. I said, one day I would love to have a building, and we would love to have that building to be named Angels of Epilepsy's House of Hope. And the reason why I want it that way is because we want to build the epilepsy community, definitely to know that they're not alone. But again, you have epilepsy survivors who can't work. Some of them are homeless. We want to have that house of hope where they can come in, they can live in that building or have a room set for them within 30 to 60 days. But within that 30 to 60 days, they will be actually volunteering for our nonprofit, but also too, there will be other people coming in to help them find work, but even though they're disabled, you know, maybe our organization could actually hire these people, you know, to work for us in the near future. And also to just activities to definitely instill to empower them. And also too, you have a lot of epilepsy survivors that deal with short-term memory loss and other things. You know, our organization, we provide yoga and meditation sessions, just something that could help them in any way possible to live a normal life. And we've actually assisted a few people, just providing them resources, and also just working with Angels of Epilepsy part-time, just to get them on their feet, helping them to find housing and so forth. Because a lot of people nowadays, even right now, are struggling to find work. Many of them say, I am homeless, and I cry. And I'm like, how are you living? They said, I live in a tent here in Georgia. And I'm like, you need medication, right? Yes, I do, but I don't have insurance. So we try our best to provide in any way that we possibly can. But we want, hopefully, Angels of Epilepsy's House of Hope will, you know, be out there someday. And it could just be where those with an invisible illness like epilepsy, we can provide work for them or help them, you know, get the work and try their best to live a normal life. Yeah, definitely. That's what we hope for.
I very much think that will happen. The House of Hope. Just from everything you've told me, this whole journey that you've been on, and really like everything that this organization stands for and does, I foresee that 100%. There's no way that's not going to happen. I'm here to also support any way I can, spread the word to Canada, get them to,
Yes.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then my final question would be is if you have any advice for others who are considering starting their own epilepsy organizations or becoming epilepsy advocates themselves.
Well, definitely, I would say reach out to other epilepsy survivors who are advocates. What our organization is also doing right now, we are hoping to bring more advocacy in the epilepsy community. We need more advocates, you know, to share their stories, to talk about epilepsy, because more and more people each day are being diagnosed. So we need more advocates. We need more people to share their stories, to actually say, hey, I've gone through this, but look at me now. So, and that will empower more and more survivors and parents and caregivers, and say, wow, even caregivers and parents, we want them to become, we need more of them to become advocates in the epilepsy community as well. So that's something that, you know, my organization, myself as an advocate, I definitely empower them and encourage them to please become, you know, that advocate for the epilepsy community, because the more the merrier. It's going to be epilepsy. You know how, you know, breast cancer and a lot of these other illnesses that are out there. Angels of Epilepsy could really be on top if we get more and more people to share their story, talk about it. Our organization started the I Am Me campaign. We started that so we can get more and more people to share their story. And that has been doing quite well, definitely. We've had a lot of survivors across the state of Georgia and also in other states as well. So that's been doing great. But I definitely just, you know, if they would like to start a nonprofit organization, always now you can do research, you know, online, but also to speak with other individuals who have started a nonprofit, just to see some steps that they've taken. You know, it's quite of a process. I will say that, but you know, you will be rewarded, you know, and proud of yourself, you know, once it's done. Angels of Epilepsy, we've now celebrated over 15 years. I've never would have thought that it could last this long, but it has, you know. And myself, I started became an advocate 12 years ago, you know, because I'm like, gosh, I need to like share my story. I have this organization, but I really need to share my story. So I started becoming an advocate 12 years ago. And when I put my story out there, like being a mother, having my children to be advocates, my family getting involved, and also just taking care of me as well. The car accident that I had in 2006, the brain surgeries. And when I started sharing my story, people were like, wow, that's amazing. You have an amazing story. And that gave me the encouragement and empowerment to say, I need to be an advocate. I need to be that mentor in the epilepsy community. And I haven't stopped. I haven't stopped. So I definitely encourage so many people worldwide to please advocate for epilepsy, just so people could know about this condition and what it's about. Definitely.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I'm with you on that. Like as someone who just finally shared publicly my story quite literally this month, it you do feel that difference. So for everyone listening, please listen to that advice. And as long as we keep sharing, I think we'll keep expanding and hopefully, we're all on the same, I think we're all on the same mission. We all have the same similar goals. And that's why it's so great to see organizations like yours that are just really changing the way that, I even view epilepsy and providing that support. So thank you so much for that.